So you all know that means herding cats and fun things like that. There's a lot of dealing more on the creative side. So if you think of Tim as in charge of the scheduling and sort of when and how we get things done, that sort of process. I kind of help on the what we're doing and why, if that makes any sense. Someone nodded. It was successful. All right.
All right. So with that introduction, Colin will just go in presentation to give you guys a little bit of an overview. Just tell me when to switch.
Cool. Yeah. Let's jump to the first slide. So we'll try to keep the presentation pretty short because I know you guys are probably interested in asking questions and making this more interactive. But this first slide is just talking about a little bit of our approach. But what I would say, especially to all of you who are here for past Command & Conquer games, the thing that is so significant about this particular project is that we're changing our approach. And it's no longer for us about getting one version of the game, putting it in a box, and moving on to an expansion pack or on to the next project. We're really committed to sticking with this platform that we're building and continuing to make it better. And you guys all play a very important role in helping us do that. And I know there are lots of desires out there, and we'll have a chance to talk about some of the specific things that we've heard from you that you want to see changed. But we're very committed to using that feedback to make the game better. Obviously, the forums are a way to do that. Events like this are a way to do that. And as we start to have more players play the game, we'll also get information back that tells us what is and what isn't successful in terms of the choices that we've made. So that's another piece that we'll use to do that. So let's go on to the next slide. So I guess we wanted to just touch on some of the things that we've heard back where we've made changes already. And this list is in no particular order, but there's been a lot of feedback that's already changed some of the choices that we've made or helped us set direction in what we're doing. Some of these are things that you guys may have had a chance to see for the first time on the show floor, or if you came up and visited us in the business center. Some of the changes are just deploying now in the August build, oil most notable among them. But let's go to the next slide. Map revisions, I think one of the biggest pieces of early feedback that we got was that people felt the maps were too constricted. So we've tried to open up some of that constriction, and besides just widening the distance to get up to different elevations, we've also removed a lot of the clutter that units were getting stuck on as they tried to move through areas. So this has happened across many of the maps. I don't know that all of these maps have been revised in the August build, but I think most have, and any that have not are certainly coming soon. On the next. So this is kind of a matrix of some of the core feedback that we've seen come back, both from the community event that we held early on, and also through the forums. And I think there are kind of three big themes. First was to eliminate the StarCraft 2 similarities, which some people commented on. Second was to rectify some dissimilarities that people noted from what's perceived as core Command & Conquer. And then last is return more to the generalist universe. And there are a lot of specifics here, and I think these are probably worth talking through in some more detail. Brian, maybe you want to jump in and just jump around as you see fit.
Actually, what we might do is run through, finish the presentation, pop back to this slide,
okay,
and use that as part of the Q&A
discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just do all this. I don't want to stop the whole thing on its.
Yeah, maybe, I think what we could do is just run through the pink ones for now. I think that would be a good start.
We want to run through.
So maps, we just talked about.
Yeah.
Oil would be great to talk about what's changed so that these guys know.
Yeah, so on the maps we have, the existing ones have been modified to open them up a bit. And one of the issues that we had just, outside of the starting base areas, we found actually a handful of bugs on how some of the props and things were actually being calculated. They ended up being obstacles instead of things that you could break through. And so what was happening is it was causing all sorts of crazy unit behavior and really kind of clogging up the maps more than was intended. So we've gone back and done a bunch of work on all the maps to clean a lot of that up so that the actual playing sort of fighting areas should play a lot more smooth than they did previously. We have at least one entirely new map on the way that is, including even the starting area, is just much more open. So it's a very much more Generals 1 style map. And there'll be more of those on the way as well. Oil, so actually, before I keep going, so how many people have actually played the version here at the show in some form? Oh wow, so you guys actually fought through the lines and everything, man. Wow,
Yeah.
dedication. So, so then obviously the oil change, it should be obvious. That's now not a second resource. It's similar to the oil derricks of the first Generals, but the concept being that you actually have to build a structure on it as opposed to capture it with infantry. When if the opposing player or team doesn't want you to have it and they blow it up, then they can build on it. So in the first Generals, it was you capture it back and forth, or someone decides they don't feel like doing it anymore, they just squash it, and now you've kind of eliminated a place on the map that was interesting. We didn't really want to eliminate places on the map that were interesting, so we moved it more to being a construction metric, which involves a little bit more time to actually build it up. You have the builders kind of hard harassable, and it creates a situation where you have to maintain attention on more areas of the map as opposed to eliminating areas on the map to pay attention to. So, but that changes in on the build. So obviously most of you have already seen that. Ditto with the EU power, so their power system works, like the APA and like both of those factions did in the first Generals. What else do we have? I assume you've all seen the news on the campaign coming next year, so I hope you all watched the press conference. A few nods, okay.
Yes.
We got a couple people.
2 people did, all right.
Late game economy is tied to the oil. So again, one of the things that we wanted to change was we wanted to tie the concept of late game economy to map control as opposed to just being like thing I build in the back of my base and it just sort of generates infinite money for me. So that we create more friction on the map, more battles happening over areas of interest. Instead of it just being 2 attacks on bases and, or maybe 1 supply depot or something. And so it's more to drive, interesting conflict and to drive more fights and skirmishes in different areas of the map. The other 2 I kind of skipped over. So crushing, we're going to hopefully have in this fall.
That's good.
The issue with crushing is not that we can't do it. The problem with it is if we were to just put crushing in, it would not play very well, and then it doesn't really solve the problem. And so there's some issues with just sort of making sure that all of the players are kind of seeing what's happening and that what you're doing and sort of experiencing matches what you expect to see. And so there's some work on our end to make sure that actually happens. And then the starting cache and building unit speed, this is something that we're actually doing a pass on right now. So we're not finished with it. And again, like everything else, like this isn't by itself. So it's not just starting cache. There's economy sort of retuning that has to happen there as well. It's not just building unit speed because the tech trees are tied into this, so there's some tweaking that has to happen there. But we do have, I guess I can talk about this now too since we're on this subject, right?
Spill the beans.
So we have, in the community lounge, we're going to be putting up a modified build of one of the internal test sets that we're doing that actually has the unit build and unit speeds modified. They're not 100% final, but they're very different than what you've been playing in the alpha or what's even on the show floor. There's still some more work to do, obviously, on tweaking the tech trees. Like there's a lot of comments on that, duly noted, there's some places where they are very awkward. So, tomorrow for sure, and depending on how fast Andy works, maybe even, after the presentation, sort of before the boat trip, some people can go over there and kind of check that out and be kind of curious to get some reactions on, how the units feel moving around. There's been some work on trying to tighten up some of the combat interactions between a lot of units, because right now it feels a little bit mushy, and so we've been trying to tune those as well so that they feel a lot better. That's all the red ones. I think maybe we can, it's probably a good idea to kind of finish through the presentation, unless we're already done with the presentation.
No, I think that's good. We can come back. Honestly, I don't remember what's next in the presentation. But, okay, a little bit of a roadmap of what's coming. So we're very soon going to be moving to a cadence where we do 2 updates a month. We've been doing about 1 update a month lately. With this new cadence, the middle of the month is generally going to be some balance changes. The end of the month is generally going to be content-focused release. So these are just some of the themes that we're planning to be working on in the months ahead. And I think obviously you guys, most of you already had a chance to see some of. In September, we've got some more generals coming. We've got what we call a drain, but it really is just a way to use what you're accumulating in terms of command points to put them back and make your customized generals better. Let's see, lots of other details that I won't necessarily go through point by point, but as we go forward, we really are trying on a monthly cadence to bring feedback from you guys into the game and to take the issues that we see reported in terms of it doesn't work on my graphics card or it won't install, and make sure that we're addressing all of that stuff as well. So that's just a little peek into what's coming ahead. I think that might be the last slide. Is there anything else in there? Yeah, that's it. So with that then, do we want to just open it up to questions, or how do you want to?
Yes, so before we go into going over to the other room to have you guys play the new build, I just want to point out that this build that you guys are going to play, it's pretty much the same build that's on right now with major balance changes. Those changes have been made because of you asked for it. We tried our old system that's currently in place, but we heard you. So that's why we're going to try something new in a smaller group, and we thought this time it would be great to place. So there were some people putting in a lot of extra hours to get this build done, so that you guys can actually enjoy it. But before...
Like Andy.
Yeah, exactly, like Andy. We'll meet Andy as a British guy in the room. We'll be hopping around. So, but to give him a little bit more time to actually put it on, you guys probably have some questions, and those gentlemen are happy to actually take you.
All right, so first hand I saw here in the front.
Well, 2 little things. First of all, the custom game premium mode. I saw that it had some features like you could choose your color and map. I think the map thing should be by default not premium. The color thing is okay. But most importantly, the premium mode, there should be like a way to buy it forever. Like you pay the $60, you would pay for the full product, and you have all the perks, the mini perks that you would get. That you would either get it anyway through the premium mode. Because some people are like, well, I don't want to renew it every 30 days or every month or every year. So I think that would be more efficient. I think some people will pay anyway if they like the game. You can try the game, pay for the full product, and have it forever. Cool. And the other thing is, I'm not sure if you can go back to the other slide with all the changes. Yeah, I was wondering, structure capture, why is that under consideration only?
You want to talk to that?
Yeah, so structured capture, I mean, we have under consideration, so that's something that we want to get to. The problem that we're having right now is that we have issues with mind control effects. So there's actually unit abilities and a lot of other stuff we want to do to kind of, temporarily swap allegiances or whatnot, but right now it's causing a lot of problems, so we have to do some back-end work to get that straightened out so that we can do things like structure capture. We can do like an ability that temporarily turns an enemy unit to your side, or all of those types of things.
It's engine thing.
Yeah, and then, second to that, we want to have structures to capture. So now there's an art pipeline thing where we need to get some text structures built out so that we can have some stuff on the map for people to capture back and forth. So there's two areas there.
That's exactly what are you considering if there aren't structures to capture? Because you obviously aren't doing the relevant and Tiberian stuff where you can capture the actual enemy-based structures.
Well, we could potentially capture the enemy base structures. It's the
Yeah,
same
but
problem
you,
as having
but you
text
probably won't
structures.
do it because that's not the generals. What generals was about. Generals didn't have it. The original generals didn't have it.
It did, actually.
Yeah, it was flags.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the
it
flag.
did. Yeah, but it
We didn't have the spray paint guy. They had the dudes with the flags.
It was limited. It was limited. If I don't mistake, it wasn't for all the structures. It was for all the structures.
I'm pretty sure it was all structures.
Except for all defenses.
Right.
Well, yeah, except for turrets, right? But
So you consider doing the whole thing?
potentially, yeah. I mean, we just have to work through the tech issues. Like that's the major hurdle.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff that says under consideration, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're philosophically opposed to it. It means we're working out, okay, how do we implement it? When do we implement it? What are the specific mechanics going to be for us to do that? But I do want to jump back for a second because the subject of premium came up, and I think just from looking at the Alpha forum today, and I understand there were some posts on other forums, that there's some confusion about what premium mode actually means. And I'll start by saying we're still fleshing this out on our side, so I think nothing is carved in stone. One of the wonderful things about this being a live service is that we have an opportunity to get feedback and to adapt. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Right now, premium mode does not restrict what types of gameplay you can get to. So I think people saw in the GamesCom build that there was a premium token, and they also independently saw that some of the game modes were grayed out, and they assumed that those two things were related. They're not, actually. The modes that we had grayed out were just modes that we didn't want to make available here at GamesCom. But if you, on the floor build, click on the premium mode, you get a description of some of the thinking of what premium will do today. And those are things like boosting the amount of experience that you get as you play, boosting the amount of command points that you get at the end of every mission, giving you some more options in terms of how you filter what you get matched into, in terms of what you select in your custom games. So, specific maps as an example. We're really not trying to set up a situation where you have to have premium. We're trying to create a situation where we feel like premium adds value, but it's not, we're trying to hold stuff back so that you just have to buy premium to play the game. But like I said, we're still fleshing out what it is, and we really appreciate any feedback that you guys have, but hopefully that clears up some of the confusion that was being expressed on the forums. Any other questions? All right, in the loop.
On the last slide, the third bullet under late September said support full player load. What does that mean for the NDA? Will that be lifted at that point? Because would that be basically transitioning to an open beta?
I'm going to defer that question to this gentleman.
So obviously we started streaming our game, and I said it in the invite that we don't want to put an NDA on it because we want you guys to go out and tell the world that we're working with you guys, obviously, to make the game better. So for now, when people start playing the game, we will still say this game is under NDA. But for you guys, I want to encourage you to actually go out and communicate to the world what you experienced, where we want to go. And down the road, in terms of open beta, we obviously are a little bit further away. As you can see, we have a lot of milestones planned. It's still scheduled for later this fall, but at the end, you guys will be part of making the decision in terms of how the game will be played by you, in terms of what metrics we get back. If we don't feel the game is ready, we will not push it out just because we have to.
Yeah, and I think that's worth touching on as well, that for a live service, there is no single point of release. We do need to keep increasing the load on our servers to make sure that we're ready, and that we don't wind up in a situation where we say, hey everybody, please come play our game, and the whole service just falls over. The only way to really have confidence that we can handle those loads is over time to continue to have more people access the game and load those servers and test it out. That has the benefit of kind of broadening the feedback that we get as well. But yeah, we're not going to launch until we believe it is a fun game and until we're confident that our backend can support the loads that we're anticipating that we're going to get.
Yeah. Or more accurately, I guess it would be important to say that yes, we have to support full player load before we open up the beta, but being able to support the full player load doesn't mean we're opening the beta, right? So it sort of doesn't necessarily work both ways there.
Yes.
Two questions. One regarding the crashing problem.
Yeah.
You can elaborate a bit more. Is it a problem with the animation for other players and stuff like that?
It's synchronization between clients.
Yeah, but synchronization of the animation or the soldier or whatever.
It's not animation related. It's, you have a situation where, you have an infantry unit, you have your tank, right? And, the tank's driving towards the infantry unit, and the infantry moves out of the way, and the tank keeps driving, and they fall over and die. And you're like, well, they moved out of the way, why are they dead? But what's happened is because of latency, they didn't actually move out of the way in time, and so they got killed.
So some of the players see that, or all the
Right,
players?
it'll be all the players see it, and that's the problem. Or the guys are standing there and the tank drives right through them and the infantry move out of the way and don't die. And you're like, well, I ran them over, but, well, no, actually they moved out of the way, So we have to clean that up so that when you're playing and you see the tank run over the people, right, they die, and it feels right. So the whole issue there is that it feels right, not that we just have crushing, bullet point, and it's janky as hell when you're playing it, right?
And this has to do with the fact that the entire simulation happens on the server, and the client just receives.
It's related to that, yeah.
So the other questions I have about the previous slide, show it. You had
You're gonna work here.
You had 2 points here. The EU power copies for the pylons, and the gold is a resource thing. To me, gold seems like very cosmetic changes, and seems like detriments from the side of the people who have. Like, why is EU power copies for Protoss pylons is not good? Just because it's in StarCraft, or because there's an actual problem with the mechanic? If it's just because copy StarCraft, to me, again, it seems petulant.
It's
like that, because StarCraft does a few things well, so why not?
There's a couple issues. So there's a couple different ways to look at it. The first one is having a mechanic like this in StarCraft works because the other factions have their own mechanics that limit them in some way as well, where that wasn't as true. And so looking at us having the EU power plants work the way they were, we had a decision. We either remove this and let them function like they did in Generals 1, or we look at the other two factions and hinder them in some way and thinking about it, we're like, I don't know if we really want to hinder the other two factions to create some sort of parity here as much as it's easier just to roll this back for now. And so that was kind of the reasoning here, less so than this is some terrible thing and we hate it and we'll never use it. Down the line, hey, maybe, we do something with this. Yeah. There was some thoughts on, maybe, even just a little bit down the road, maybe we do something where, you need to have power plants to power base defenses. So if you wanted to cannon rush someone, to use the StarCraft lingo, there was actually power plants involved there, and there's some different ways to sort of harass or disrupt that style of play, because that's kind of interesting. But my base is built around the power plants without that system or something like that existing for the other two is really kind of awkward.
Yeah, but I personally don't see a problem with only one of the three factions having its own power style. Well, the other factions, for example, GLA will have somewhere down the line the salvage system, which none of the other factions have, and it also has its own style on a different issue. So they will be different in this way instead of being different in every single possible way. in the power, in the driving, in the, so I don't see a problem. Personally, I don't see a problem. So with just one faction being different in the power system. See, so that's why I asked to clarify. Also, gold is a resource. So, what was the problem exactly? Because I don't know from Summit enough.
Well, so again, I think some people are used to seeing it called something else. This is one where we're kind of open to feedback. And so
Okay, so I won't tell you. Anyone else?
I think a lot of the feedback that we got asked for credits as an example rather than goals. But yeah, we're open to feedback. So if you guys have opinions, definitely use the forums to communicate them back to us. Other questions out there? Yes, sir.
It says structure rotation there. I tried in the beta and in the alpha and it worked. I'm not sure what that point is about.
So what we have right now is like 4-axis rotation.
Oh, you mean the cell system and such?
Pardon?
You mean the cells-based system and such?
Well, no,
Yeah, so what this means is, in the first generals, it was free rotation, not limited on 4 axes. And so this is a, we want to be able to arbitrarily align the structures in any direction we want, as opposed to only in 4 directions.
I kind of like that actually, because it makes bases more orderly. You can put things as close together as possible without needing to...
I don't want to start a civil war. The pros and cons of both methods, but they do both have pros and cons, and so this is a situation where, again, we're doing some sizing work on a lot of the structures and kind of re-optimizing them, and then we want to kind of go back and look and see, which things make sense, or how better we can kind of leverage, which side has the most pros and the fewest cons.
other questions? I see a hand back there.
Question for you. You're saying that you have a complex tech tree. Is that you're saying that you're trying to make it less complex or more complex?
Less complex.
That's the issue. It's very complex at the moment, so I'm a bit more forward.
So one of the weird issues that we have right now, and I mean, again, we can go into a whole, that'll be for the boat. We can go into that and get a couple of drinks and we can. But we have a situation, sort of accurately noted by a number of people that it can be very difficult to get to certain units. Heaven forbid you're playing like EU and you want a longbow because the guy has a helicopter and you're like, what in the world do I got to do to get the stupid thing? This is ridiculous, right? And then we have this other issue where you have like 4 different unit producing structures, all of them producing 1 or 2 things. It's just really kind of awkward when you're trying to figure out like what I'm supposed to do. And so one of the things that we're trying to do, and I mentioned this earlier with the tech trees, is just trying to figure out how to kind of squish them down a bit so that you have more options available in chunks of time as opposed to it being strung out over 20 minutes of base building.
Is that a follow-up question to that?
Yeah, well, I would just say, honestly, the GLA is the hardest of that, like the salvage and the chemical thing is
Only
messy.
Other question? In the back there.
In the new build we are playing today, what about the counter system? You have this large thread in the alpha forums that fans want changes, but I don't see it on the sheet.
Let's see, counters are a reference.
There.
Yep, there we go.
Oh, I think I just killed something.
Crushed some.
So yeah, we're definitely aware of the feedback on counters. I think there is thinking going on in that front.
Well, so